And this is DJ Gabe coming back to you with another interview with a musician. You know, I interviewed my Tio David down there in Los Angeles, California, and talked about his music career. I thought, who am I going to interview next? I was like, hey, I got my brother,
Yeah.
Andre. He's been in a few bands, and it would be good to interview him, I think, and talk about his taste for music and what got him into it and all that. So I hope you find it interesting. So, brother, where were you born and raised? Tell people who don't know you.
Yeah, so I was born in Seattle. Initially grew up, I think, as I recall, for a little bit on Queen Anne, and then let's see, we were at I think Wallingford Place after that, and I think after that I ended up in Northgate, pretty much where I am now. I did high school in Bellevue for a minute, but it seemed like I always came back to the Northgate area.
All right. So the North End, Northgate area of Seattle, which has really developed a lot. That whole thing has changed.
Oh
And
yeah,
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 I remember the house on Wallingford. I always remember you on your big wheel, just terrorizing the block, going up and down
yeah.
the block in that big wheel.
I
People
remember it
better
like it
get
was
out the
yesterday.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I remember that house exactly how it's laid out, where all the furniture was,
Yeah.
running around in there, front door, back door, just tearing it up.
Right. Well, we might come back to that place here in just a minute when we discuss your music career. And so then after high school, what did you do after that?
Well, so I went to college for a couple of years, or I tried to go to college. It really didn't do very well. But the thing was, is when I got out of high school in '89, that's right when the Seattle music thing happened. So I'm going to college, but I'm I'm really trying to be, kind of involved in the Seattle music scene. And so I ended up leaving college and coming back and doing that and playing in bands all over Seattle and West Coast and that kind of thing during the Seattle music craze, which was really fun. I think I probably learned more doing that than I would have in college at the time. I just wasn't a great student at the time. So yeah, I did that for about 5 years. Yeah, that was pretty much what I was doing 24/7. I mean, I was working a little bit here and there, but odd jobs and that kind of a thing. I was really trying to do music and learning a lot along the way.
Besides your music career, I understand you were involved in the gaming industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, I've been a video game designer for it's almost 30 years. And I got started in the late 90s, and it was kind of a thing where I was in the cable company. I was working at the cable company. I was studying electronics to become an electrician. But this is all before the internet and before computers really sort of became, you know, sort of essential to the work that I do. So that happened just after the whole Seattle music thing started to kind of settle down. The internet happened, right? So computers happened. And so I couldn't help but get involved in that. I ended up going back to school in the late 90s, and that was to get involved in computer science. And I was pursuing a degree there, but before I got the degree, I got a job. I was actually doing night school, trying to get a degree, but I was interning at a video game place for free, while also working full time during the day at the cable company. So I was doing this whole kind of a thing, and I think that at the time I just, and Seattle's a tech, area focal point, for Microsoft and Boeing and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. And so there was quite a bit of companies in Seattle that were trying to be involved in video games, and I just got kind of scooped up while I was trying to get a degree. So again, going to school with the best of intentions, but just something else was happening. And so I left school again to do that, and then yeah, I've been pretty much full time as a video game developer ever since.
So you mentioned the music industry there in Seattle, and I would guess we're talking about the grunge scene primarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grunge scene that blew up in Seattle, the Nirvana and all the different bands that were real
Yeah.
popular at that time. My two boys, I remember, used to go to a lot of the clubs there, and watch those bands in downtown Seattle and sneak in. They got kicked out. There's a few stories they told me later. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
even know they, bouncers threw them out because they snuck in the back door kind of thing and got thrown out and they sneaked back in. And it was kind of a revolving door, kind of like with them and their friends. And it was just, there's, stupid stuff the young boys do. But what were some of the groups that influenced you then while growing up? Your music taste, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, it's kind of interesting because when I was growing up, the other thing that happened was MTV. So MTV really influenced a lot of what I liked as far as music goes. But yeah, I would say that when I started playing guitar, there were a couple of attempts at trying to get together with other people and play music together. But really, my first band was when I was in high school as a sophomore. And the word had gotten out that, I was I was somebody who played guitar, and there was a band in my class that needed a guitar player. And so I don't really know how this happened, but I always had an ability, I guess, to kind of like figure out like, how to introduce myself and just like, make the suggestion we should get together and play some music or whatever. And I was a real shy kid and I didn't really have a whole lot of friends and I didn't really know how to put together sentences, but I knew enough to get that much done. And so being in a band really changed everything for me in sophomore year in high school because when suddenly you're with a group and you're playing music and you're starting to play parties or you're playing the assemblies at the school or you're playing the talent show or the battle of the bands and like the once that starts to happen, not only is it helpful for somebody like me with like, a confidence, kind of issue working with, but also, other people, you just start to get to know a lot more people. And I think that's just because you are part of a community and that's that's important at that age is being a part of some community, whether it's sports or theater or music or math or whatever it is, it's like, being a part of a community really instilled, I think, some confidence at a critical time in my life that allowed me to, kind of be able to get up on stage and, perform and, you know, present, if you will, which can be really scary. So that was my first band. The band was called The Unexcused, which was yeah my high school band. We were a punk rock band. We played punk rock music and we wrote some music. We ended up doing two demos, as we called them back in the day. That's when you would record like 4 or 5 songs on a cassette tape,
Mm.
and then you would write on it, the band name, and you would make a little cover for it and stuff like that, and you'd give it to people at check out our demo. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so we did that. One of our friends had started becoming interested in recording. So a friend had a 4-track cassette recorder that we did our demos on at his parents' house, and so we would have the drums in the closet, somebody banging away, with pillows in front of it so it's not too loud, and somebody playing guitar and, next to the dresser over here, like that kind of thing. Garage band type stuff. And that was amazing. When we graduated from high school, though, that was when that band ended. It probably would have just kept going, but things changed, and so graduation eventually came along a few years later, and we ended up calling it quits. But that's when I got into, sort of playing around Seattle bands.
So after the Unexcused, then what was your next band?
So then let's see, I had graduated high school, I was in college, but I started to my somehow my name as a guitar player started to kind of filter around a little bit. And I think some of it was from my, friends at recording studios that were looking for, people to step in and help with projects. I think some of it was through guitar teachers and sort of music theory crowd kind of thing. But I ended up trying out for a pretty big band in Seattle at the time called Heir Apparent. And that was sort of through a guitar teacher at the time. That didn't go anywhere. I tried out for a band called Doctor Unknown, and they ended up taking me on. So I was suddenly, all of a sudden in a band that had a following in Seattle and was playing shows regularly and all that kind. And I wasn't 21 yet. So kind of similar to what you're saying. Um, I was having to kind of sneak in and out of bars to be able to go play these shows and finding myself kicked out from time to time. But yeah, so that was Doctor Unknown. That I played in that band for a year, but then eventually joined another band called Rattletrap, which was my like really one of my first real bands, and ended up playing in that band for 5 years. Like that was during the Seattle craze for most of that. So it was kind of a grunge band, kind of a progressive band. It was a lot of shredding and a lot of really fast music, which was maybe a bit different than what, some people might think of as grunge music, but we did a little bit different.
Hmm. So when your listeners there, do they have like the mosh pit and stuff like that at some of your shows, or
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I've jumped in a couple mosh pits while I've been playing, which is always a little bit tricky. You never really know if you're gonna get out of the mosh pit with your
right?
guitars.
Yeah, they're gonna catch you. Yeah, you hope they like you, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll see hopefully it works out. But yeah, in the 90s, yeah, mosh pits started becoming a thing. And because it was different before that, there wasn't mosh pits like that. It was more like headbangers. But it wasn't like people taking each other out kind of a thing. So it wasn't so interactive before. But yeah, so that started becoming a thing and that was awesome. It was mosh pits, it was stage divers, it was crowd surfers, people going out on the crowd, up on everybody's arms, kind of a thing. And then, yeah, some of the heavier shows, the mosh pits.
All right. And then, so what happened next?
Well, so that was Rattle Trap when and we also did several demos, but at sort of like, fancier studios. The funny thing about Rattle Trap is we did demos with the guy that did demos for the Unexcused, except for when I was in the Unexcused, we did demos in his, parents' closet. But when Rattletrap, we did demos at London Bridge Studios, which is where he ended up working. So while I was sort of like, you know, getting better and playing in better bands, he was getting, better and recording in better studios. And so he ended up being my roommate. And so that ended up being a pretty good, kind of a connection.
Relationship.
He had
Mhm.
bands to record and we had a place to go record songs.
So after that one,
So then, yeah, so Rattle Trap ended in, I think it was in 96 or so, and it was due to end. And I went back to school, took kind of a bit of a break from the music thing. Still had, gear and wrote songs and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't really sort of playing in a band for a few years. And then in the early 2000s, kind of got into an alt country band, kind of, which was trendy at the time, called Shamewreck. And Shamewreck actually included one of the band members from my first band, The Unexcused. So that was kind of an interesting, like coming back around again. And we did that for several years, just playing around Seattle. And things had changed by then, right? Like, the grunge thing was over. A lot of those clubs had shut down or become some other new club. And so we were playing around the Ballard area a bit, in some clubs that I don't even think a single one of them is still around. And did that for a few years, and then that was at the point where after that band, me and an old buddy of mine who was in Rattletrap decided to put together a surf band. And we just decided, you know what, we're just going to do a little trio, no singers, no singing. It's just going to be instrumental music, you know, kind of little trashy kind of surf band. And and I'm still doing that to this day. That's actually been, I mean, it's almost been 10 years doing that.
the name of
Um,
that band is
that's the Destroyers. Yeah.
The
So I play
Destroyer.
6 records with that band now. I've toured all over the place with that band, played with every like hero I can think of, in terms of musicians, sharing bills with on stage and that kind of thing. So that's been a really fun adventure and working on a new record now. Still doing it. But then I also play in a band called 38 Coffin. And 38 Coffin it's a little, there's a little bit of crossover, it's kind of like the Destroyers are a bit of they're surf, but it's a bit of kind of monster mash camp, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of horror music surf, that kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. And 38 Coffin is kind of similar in that regard, but it's a full band with, singers and stuff like that. It's a little bit
All
different,
right.
but it's in a similar lane. We've actually played shows together where I'll play in the first band, Destroyers, to open up for 38 Coffin, and then I'll play in that band.
All right.
Double header.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, other than Seattle, have you guys traveled anywhere else to play?
Yeah, oh, definitely, definitely. So, in fact, we're doing some traveling this year too. So, usually what happens is around the summertime, a lot of the big festivals, kick up. And so, we're not in a position where we go and we play all of them, but we'll go try to play several of them. And then we'll go play other shows like around the festival as well, which kind of makes it worth it. So basically, the strategy is when the festivals kick up, we'll go plan a little tour in that city and play some shows around town, not too close to the festival, but like, kind of try to make it worth it so you can kind of get paid for some shows, sell some merch, go to the big festival, sell more merch, and hopefully, have it be worthwhile, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But we'll go do that. So that'll be down in like Long Beach. We'll do that. San Diego, San Francisco. We'll do a bunch of Oregon stuff in Bend, Portland, and then of course Seattle, all over Seattle, Vancouver, Yakima. We're going to Yakima next month, and Wenatchee, Ellensburg, like all that kind of like East Washington type stuff. And then also at the same time that all the festivals are happening on the West Coast, they're also happening on the East Coast. So, you know, we'll go to Jersey on the boardwalk there. And we played Asbury Lanes, which was the big high tide music festival. We did that in 2019 and got to kind of go play Brooklyn and,
Oh,
all
cool.
all that kind of stuff. Kind of just hit, a bunch of Philadelphia, kind of like that that run through there. And then last year I got to do some Europe stuff. Go play Germany and Brussels and all through Germany and end up in Berlin, for the final show. And man, you know, it's a lot of
Yeah,
fun. Get to
sounds like it.
Well, it's funny because, everybody's on the same circuit. So as bands, everybody's running into each other all the time because everybody's got to be there at the same time. And so, yeah, you find yourself meeting a lot of cool people and helping each other on tour and, you know, helping each other get out of jams and get out of
Yeah.
trouble, all kinds of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, they didn't have to bail you out any times. But what kind of plans do you have for the future, Andre?
So I would say for this year, mainly just doing smaller tours with Destroyers and 38 Coffin. And these will be like 4 or 5 days kind of stints, And so gonna go down California, play there. Gonna go do Ellensburg, Yakima, Wenatchee, play there, play Bellingham. We'll be doing that. Definitely gonna be playing shows all around Seattle at, Slim's Last Chance and Daryl's and, Crocodile and, like all those kind of
Crocodile, the famous crocodile.
Crocodile, yeah.
Yeah,
And El Corazon, which is, the old off
El
ramp, which we
Corazon. Yeah,
did before that. So like, we'll definitely be playing a bunch of shows there. Yeah, that'll take us through August. And then we'll kind of shut things down a little bit, wait for next summer.
yeah. Well, I'm still trying to get you out here in Hawaii, brother. Yeah, I miss you.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
enjoyed
cool.
our last your last trip out here. That was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
yeah, whether you play in a band or whether I see you again out here, man, I'd sure like to do that. And I know I got to tell people that, like I said, I'm very proud of my brother, and I was very honored when our father passed at his memorial. I remember thinking that I wanted to play a Neil Young song,
Yeah.
and I gave it to my brother. He said he had never played this song before, but I said, "Would you please play the guitar and I'll sing. I'm not real good with it either. I think I'm an okay singer, but it's not something that I sing routinely. I like that song, but I thought it'd be very important to honor our father with that song. And I remember you. I think I sprung on you like a week before the memorial. You're like, okay, well, I'll try. I'll see. And you obviously had practiced a few chords and everything. And I remember we did one out there on the where we are living at the time in Kent. We did one dry run, and that was it. That was the only time me and you
Yeah, that's
practiced
right.
together. We did one dry run, and they said, "Let's go for it." And it seemed that everybody liked that. Every it brought tear to everybody's eyes, including ours. But that was that. They say, yeah, I played with my brother. I didn't play with the band, but I played with my brother. And I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment, and I'm glad we did that. We played Neil Young, Old Man, but it's sometimes you only get a quick run through right before you go on stage, and so that was kind of fun to do that, pull it off, and still be pretty quick.
Anything else you'd like to tell people about Andre and your career and what you do and what?
Yeah, well, look, I'm I'm still cranking away at making video games for folks. Right now I'm focusing in the VR space, and that's been a lot of fun. So, watch for things in the future. The tech is moving fast and it's really exciting to see things develop there. My bands, the Destroyers and 38 Coffin out of Seattle are going to be playing a lot this summer, so hopefully some people can come out and can check it out, and if not, then we'll have some records for you guys, and we'll put stuff on Spotify or whatever everybody needs. So looking
Cool,
forward to it.
cool. So there you go, parents. Don't think that, hey, your kids are playing video games, they'll never amount to nothing. All they're doing is playing rock and roll all day. They'll never amount to nothing. Here's my brother, living proof that yeah,
That's
you
that's all
you
I do.
can't you can't do something with that. All right, very good. Well, it's good seeing your face again, and hopefully we'll meet again in person soon. I miss you. I love you.
I love you too, bro. Thank you very much.